This episode of the Everything Matters podcast is brought to you by BeLegendary.coach, where we transform leaders into legends. Are you a senior leader, entrepreneur, or executive looking to take your leadership to the next level? Are you dealing with things such as imposter syndrome, concerns with whether or not your leadership is lingering long after you've completed face time? Looking for new and innovative ways to connect with your team and to gain buy-in from stakeholders that you deal with on a daily basis? If any of this sounds like something that you're dealing with and you would like to take your leadership to an extraordinary level, your effectiveness to a legendary level, visit BeLegendary.coach. That's www.belegendary.coach and schedule your free performance analysis today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Everything Matters podcast. I'm your host, Bradford Speaks, CEO and president of BeLegendary.coach. This introduction might take a little bit longer than most, so please forgive me in advance. I want to provide you with some additional context around this episode. This episode is quite near and dear to me, considering the long-standing relationship that I have with the guest and the story that she's about to share with all of us. On May 4th, 2022, just days before her summer break began at Southern University A&M of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a 19-year-old young lady posted a since-removed suicide note to Instagram. You may remember this story. She detailed her ongoing struggle in mental health and the impact that contracting COVID-19 and simultaneously tearing her anterior cruciate ligament had had on her. Arlana Miller was a gifted athlete, student, and a member of Southern University's cheer team, which really meant a lot to her. At my college homecoming that following year, I was catching up with one of my former teammates, and actually my roommate when we were freshmen, John Tappin. And I asked him, of course, how his family's doing, all the niceties, and in particular, how his twin sister, Jan, whom also had attended Northwestern State with us for a couple of semesters before she transferred over to Northeast Louisiana to finish up her degree. He went on to share how Jan was still struggling with the loss. Now, he assumed that I knew what loss he was talking about, but I was actually clueless. I had no idea what he meant by that. And as he shared the terrible story, horrifying story about his niece, Arlana, it just really crushed me. I didn't know Arlana personally, but I knew her mother, Janice. And I thought to myself, how could I have missed this national story of prominence of the loss of this wonderful young lady's life and her connection with people that I've known for many years? It just goes to show how time can create these massive distances between people who we claim to care about. And that's precisely what had happened with us. Being a parent, I could only imagine the pain of losing a child could bring. It's the worst kind of nightmare, I thought. I asked John for Jan's number at that time so that I could reach out to her to offer my long overdue condolences and ongoing support. When she and I spoke, I asked if she'd be willing to come on to my podcast, the Everything Matters podcast, to share her story with my audience. She agreed right away. Janice has been on Dr. Phil's show and other national shows to share this story. She's an educator, both in the classroom and as an administrator. She has dedicated her life to the memory of her lovely daughter, Arlana. And she has a reminder for all of us that came directly from Arlana's lips. Check on your strong friends. That has become the mantra that dawns her nonprofit and every other effort that Janice puts forth to keep Arlana's memory alive. The message being that no matter how strong a person may appear to be, everyone needs to be checked in on these days. Not just some surface concern, but a deeper concern into their mental and emotional well-being, so that we have the opportunity at least to maybe see that they could be suffering and be able to offer whatever support that we can to help get them through whatever it is they're dealing with. So please welcome my next guest on the Everything Matters podcast, my sister from another mother, Janice Tappin-Miller, to share this deeply touching story of her daughter Arlana's life and the impact that she had on so many in just her short 19 years on earth. Let's get it popping. Janice Tappin-Miller. I know you as Jan, twin, call it what you want. You're my sister from another mother. Jan, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and sharing your story, everything that you're doing. I'm so proud of you for the contributions that you're making to your community. And I'm really excited about the story you're going to share about your beautiful daughter, Arlana, and what she meant to the world, what she meant to you. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and being willing and open to share that with us. Appreciate you for that.
Thank you, BB, for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jan, I say my sister, because, you literally are my sister. Your brother, John Tapp, which we called him at Northwestern, was my first roommate at college. Right. So me and Tapp connected, been brothers ever since. And of course, with him being my brother, you're my sister, and you were kind of off limits. I always thought you was cute.
Oh, thank you.
But Tapp was like, hey, Tapp told all the fellas in the dorm, hey man, she off limits, bro. So we were like, hey man, your sister cute though. Yeah, I know, but leave her alone. So you've always been kind of off limits for us. But man, talk to us. And I know you grew up in Bastrop, Louisiana, which ironically is similar to Bogalusa in the fact that y'all have a paper mill there as well. And I don't know if it's still there or not, but I know at the time it was. It's not there anymore. Oh wow, okay, good for Bastrop. So you grew up in Bastrop, small town. I've been to your house a couple of times, met your mom and your parents, and just love the people that are around you. Talk to us about, tell us what it was like for you growing up in Bastrop. I know that's where you grew up, and tell us where you live now and sort of what you've been up to since last time I saw you, which has been a long time.
Okay, so I grew up in Bastrop, Louisiana, went to school at Bastrop High, cheered there.
Yeah.
I didn't really ride horses like my brothers. I got married. I started teaching. I actually retired from there like 7 years ago. And I moved to Texas, and now I'm in Waxahachie, and I can retire in 2 more years. So Anna and I moved here, and she cheered at DeSoto High School. She was captain her senior year. And then she made cheer at Southern University.
Right.
She cheered there for a year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So you scholarship. I'm sorry.
Okay, beautiful. And I really want to dive more into that, her career and how she got into cheering and all that. But for you said that you didn't ride horses growing up, and I do remember seeing dudes riding horses in Bastrop. And I'm from Bogalusa, so we had a couple guys around that rode horses too, not as much as in Bastrop. So, but the boys are riding horses. I know Tapp was big into sports, and he country too. So. What did you do? Like, what was there for a girl to do growing up in Bastrop, Louisiana? I know you cheered in school, but like, what did you do as a little girl growing up? Play with dolls, or you play out in the yard? What'd you do?
No, I love cheering. Cheerleading was my outlet, and I love reading. I was a big reader. I was a reading coach last year. I was an admin, and now I went back to the classroom this year. Was the best decision ever, and I always loved reading. I was big on reading and church. Back in our day, so many years ago, we went that morning, then we had evening service, and then we went back to night service. So church was really our family. My dad always made sure, and my mom would up Sunday morning for church. They had those little intercoms in every bedroom, so Dad would have church music just blasted throughout the house. He made sure everybody was up for Sunday morning. So we had to go to church. I mean, it was just instilled in us to constantly go to church.
Yeah, I can totally get that. I think that was kind of the part of the culture in our generation growing up. I mean, same thing in my house. It's like every Sunday you getting up going to church. And my dad was so adamant about being on time. He was such a stickler for time. And at the time, I thought he was just being a jerk. But if you wasn't ready to go by 8:45, 8:50, you left, bro. He done. Like, he is leaving the house. He leave my mama, my sister, and everybody. He said, Brad, you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Come on, get in the car with me. We're going to church. And we'll see them girls when they get them girls. They always drag them behind, always late. So we'll see them when they get there. So I know that was a big part of the culture, especially in small towns, southern towns like that, in places like Louisiana. So great. So when did you first get into cheering?
When I was in junior high. I started cheering in junior high.
Okay.
I cheered in high school. And then I cheered my first year at Northwestern University on the first pom-pom line for you guys. That's how old I am. Very first pom-pom line. And
I remember that.
I used to remember we had to weigh in every week, and I would laugh because I would never gain any weight, whereas the other girls would gain. And they used to call me a $105 because every time I weigh in, I was 105. And I would laugh like, why are y'all still gaining weight? But I never would gain. But back then, we had to weigh in every week and to see if you were going to be able to be eligible to perform the next game.
Wow.
Interesting, yeah.
I never knew that. I never knew it was that intense. You had to weigh in every week. That's crazy.
Yeah, we weighed in. It was funny to me. Yeah.
That is funny. That's funny. So you came to Northwestern and you cheered, and I know that athleticism runs throughout your family. I know that Arlana was very athletic as well, which is why she went to Southern to cheer. So tell me about. I'm just curious. When you because I know you were at Northwestern for a year, maybe a year and a half or so. And then you end up transferring to our biggest rival, Northeast, which we're not going to even talk about that right now. But what was behind you making that move and leaving Northwestern and going to Northeast and finishing up there?
Actually, my dad got really sick. Dad, bad diabetic, and I just decided to move home to be closer to my dad. I'm the only girl. I'm a daddy's girl, always have been.
Yeah.
And I just decided to move home and be closer to him. And then plus I had this twin who thought he was my dad. I was like, I'm gonna be closer to home where my real dad is at. And then my brother told me, he said, my dad told me I had to watch you, like really watch you. And I was like, but you smothered me. And I didn't even have a name. I was Tap's little sister. Nobody really knew my name. They just knew I was Tap's little sister. And I was like, I do have a name.
Right.
I never get. He went on a date. I never get one time I had to go with him in the person. I felt like this is really horrible right now.
Wow.
And I actually sat on his Valentine's Day date with him and the girl. And I was like, oh, we cannot do this.
That's crazy. Yeah. And I mean, at Northwestern, Tap was so popular, being one of the top athletes coming out of the state that year in Louisiana and coming to Northwestern. And, you was kind of in his shadow. So everybody knew him. Yeah. And, he was a twin. So it's like, oh, that's Tap's sister right there. It's Tap's little sister. So I get how that might have been for you. And I really want to just acknowledge you for having the wherewithal at 19 years old, not even 20 quite yet, to want to be there to take care of your father. I mean, that's really, really admirable of you. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. So fast forward a little bit, Jan, you choose a career, you go into education, you're teaching, you've done administration for a while. You got married, obviously, at some point and had a couple kids.
Yeah.
One of those kids was Arlana. I think you have a boy and a girl, right? So tell me about your kids. What's being a mother been like for you?
Raylan is the oldest, my son, and Arlana was the baby.
Gotcha.
Was my baby. I got married. He actually still pastors a church in Louisiana.
Okay.
High school together. He actually played football with Junior. He was an Air Force recruiting officer. And we divorced. I think Arlana was like 5 or 6.
Okay.
And later on, Raylan graduated from West Monroe High School. And that year he graduated from West Monroe High School was the year we actually moved out here. Texas, Arlana and I. And I took a teaching job here, and then later on I took an admin job. And then after Arlana's death, I decided that I wanted to step down to a less stressful job.
Yeah.
And a new school district, brand new school, brand new programs called Fine Arts. And took the position, and Brad, it was the best thing for me. It was like a brand new thing. New school, new team, knew everything. Nobody really knew who I am compared to where I was. And I just felt like I needed a new beginning.
Beautiful. I love it. And sometimes you need that, especially after what you had gone through. So you mentioned Arlana, and I really want to focus in on her and who she was. You mentioned her passing, and I just want to sort of set the backdrop really of how I found out about what happened with Arlana.
Okay.
We were at Northwestern for homecoming. This was last year, 2022. And we were everybody's catching up. It's been years since we've seen each other, and we were talking to Tap, right? And man, what you been up to, man? Where you at now? What you doing? I'm coming to Houston. You living? I'm gonna come holler at you when I come through. And so we asked about you.
Oh, okay.
And he said, man, she's doing okay. He said, did y'all hear about the girl at Southern who took her own life? And I hadn't heard about it, but everybody else was like, yeah. And he was like, that was Jan's daughter. And everybody's like, dude, you got to be kidding me. Are you serious? This is like national news. And I didn't know. I hadn't heard about it. I don't really watch a lot of news, but obviously this is a big story across the country. And my heart just sunk when I heard that, because as you know, I have a bunch of kids. And, one of the biggest fears for me, and I'm sure a lot of parents share this, is the idea of losing one of your kids. It's terrifying. And I tell friends all the time, at least once a day, I go through in my head and I have this quick thought and I just flush it out of my head real quick, because I don't want to stay in that space to imagine that. I can't even imagine the pain and the hurt and the experience of that. So when I heard the news again, I just, and I told Tap, I said, man, I want to talk to Jan. I want to reach out to her, just so I can get connected and let you know that I love you and I'm thinking about you, because it just broke my heart to hear that was your daughter. So Arlana was 19 at the time, right? So I want to go back. I want to get to where she was at that particular time, but I really want to go back and let you really give a picture of who she was as a little girl. And I know you talked about how sweet she was, how curious she was, really smart. So talk to us about what she was like as a little girl and what it was like for you being her mother.
Okay, so Arlana was one of the kids you never really had to worry about. Raylan was the oldest. He's actually 3.5 years older than her. So everything Raylan did, she wanted to do. I never, she was like 4. She's like, Mom, I'm not reading yet. I should be reading. I was like, we're going to learn how to read.
And business.
She loved books. Whenever she would have a birthday party, we would give books to the guests, not candy. Stuff, we would give books. She was just,
nice.
My mom was big on us taking them to the library. I'll never forget when she was in first grade, her first grade teacher made every kid get a library card. And that was like the thing on Saturdays, we would be at the library. Nice. She loved cheer. Arlana started cheering when she was in first grade. Danced when she was like 3 years old. So after we stopped doing dance, we did cheer. She cheered for Morehouse Parish cheerleaders. They would do Parks and Recs Pee Wee football games. Yeah. Then she cheered through junior high, and then she did dance in junior high. And then when it got to high school, we moved here when she was going to 8th grade. She went to A.W. Brown. Okay. She cheered at A.W. Brown, and then she went to DeSoto. We did the early college program with the dual enrollment where you do high school and college. So when you graduate from high school, you have an associate's degree. Gotcha. I think it's called Dallas County. So what is it? Cedar Valley College. You'll get an associate's degree from there. But Lena also inherited my brother, my twin tap skill. She was good in track. She actually went to the Olympics when she was in 7th grade. And she did the 100, the long jump, and the 200. And then one year she actually won the Hershey's relays. So Arlana was just academically inclined, but she was naturally smart too. In Louisiana, Arlana tested in the gifted program. She was 99.9% in the top percentile. Wow. So she was in the gifted and talent program. In 2016, she got the academic award for President Obama. So she was just all around kid. She loved riding horses. I'll never forget, she was in the first grade. My daddy gave her first horse. And that was it. And then, awesome. I think before we moved here, a couple years before we moved, he gave her first puppy. And I didn't think it was funny because he came in for Christmas. Every granddaughter got a puppy in a cage. And we was like, we didn't have this conversation. This is a whole nother
That's what grandparents do, right? That's what grandparents do. Y'all figure it out.
Yeah, and I still have Chloe, her puppy, Chloe. So I told her when she went to college, I was like, I'm getting rid of Chloe. Because Chloe whined for a month when she left. I didn't know what was going on with the dog. I kept saying, what is wrong with the dog? Took her to the vet and everything. Yeah. And the vet was like, did something change? I was like, yeah, Arlana left and went to college. And, and he was like, yeah. I was like, but she can't take the dog with her. And I was like, so I said, Arlana, I'm getting rid of Chloe, Mama. No, you're not. That's my dog. Right. But you became Mama. Yeah. But, she got a scholarship. She majored in family and consumer science. It's a top JAG scholarship with the U.S. Agriculture Department. And she had a full 4-year ride. And she made cheer at Southern. She was so happy. Arlana loved the cheer. She loved track, but she would tell you her it's hard to give out. So she loved cheer too. So she just chose cheer over track. And for some reason, Arlana was always up front, even as a freshman, her freshman year. Every time you see Southern, she's one of the faces of Southern cheer. Arlana was at practice, and I got a call from her coach. He said, Miss Janice, I have to tell you, out of respect, something happened. I was like, what? What happened? He said, Arlana, we did a full run out. That's tumbling. He said, and she stopped for a minute because she was getting tired. And I think he said her leg gave out, and she started back, and they did stunts. He said, we're in a stunt, and Arlana's leg gave out, and the cheerleader she was holding fell. Arlana, he said her knee popped 3 times. And I said, what? He said, yes. He said, but Dayon, who was her captain at the time, took her to the doctor's, the hospital. So she'll be okay. I promise you, I just want you to hear it from me. And I was like, okay. And Arlana, I finally got on the phone. She's like, Mom, I'm okay. I was like, you sure? Because she calls me extra. She's like, Mom, you don't have to come.
Yeah, Mom, I got this. I can handle it myself. You ain't got to get in your car and be driving down here. I'm okay.
Like a 6.5-hour drive, so it would have been a flight. But she said, Mom,
That's great.
and I said, what happened? She said the cheerleader, same thing, said cheerleader fell out the stunt, and instead of Arlana letting the cheerleader fall, she was steady trying to hold her, and she fell on her knee and it popped 3 times.
A lot of pressure on her knee, yeah.
And fast forward, the doctor said she tore her ACL completely. And I think that started to bring fear into her mind that she wasn't going to heal completely, because the doctor in Baton Rouge wasn't ready for surgery. He said, she's not ready. So we said, let's get a second opinion. The year had ended and she's coming home for the summer. And I said, go Baylor Scott and White. We had an appointment at Baylor Scott and White Orthopedic in Waxahachie. She was like less than 10 minutes from the house.
Yep.
Right by Navarre College. And we were going to get a second opinion. And she was like, Mom, did you get my records? I said, yeah, I got your records. Everything's been sent over. That was Monday when we had that conversation.
Yeah.
And then Arlana walked in the Mississippi River that Wednesday. I saw her.
I'm back up a little bit. I really want to relish in, I mean, this young lady was athletic.
Yes.
She was brilliant, smart. And, if you've seen her photographs, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, she had the triple threat. I mean, she could dance, could run, and could dance, could cheer. I mean, like, just had everything going for her, right? I mean, if you're on the outside looking in, you think this kid's got it made,
right.
And so this injury, and that, just through you and I talking about it, this injury had a big impact on her. And, really not much different than a lot of athletes who get hurt. I saw it at Northwestern, guys who would blow out their knee. They came to college, with hopes of going to the NFL or maybe playing in Canada one day, blow out a knee. Carlos Treadway, Tread broke his shoulder bone in our junior year. And Tread was going to be probably a second round draft pick. He was top ranked All-American, preseason All-American as a tight end. And, fortunately he went on and he finished school and did what he had to do. But it's like that has a big emotional impact. So did you, you all were very close, obviously. I know you called all the time, and I'm sure you just bugged the crap out of her like a lot of moms do with their kids, worried about them, make sure they have you. Did you eat today? Or you get drinking enough water? Like with parents, when you love your kids, it's what you do, right? So did you sense anything that was going on with her after this injury happened? Did anything shift? Did anything change with her that you noticed?
No, Arlana was always quiet spoken. She always had a smile on her face. Even her teammates were so shocked when this happened, because they said Arlana was the silly one, always smiling, always asking how they're doing. And they kind of felt like they may have dropped the ball because they never really asked how she was doing. They knew she was injured, but she just puts this mask on every day, just happy. I don't know if you know, Brad, but the second cause of death in African American youth is suicide. And
I think since 2020, Jan, I think since 2020, it's also increased since the pandemic.
1 in 5 people suffer with mental illness. And less than 40% will get treatment. Over 6% will not get any help, because we, as African American people of color, call you weak. We call you crazy. And that's
pray about it.
That's not true, because anybody who can tell you that I'm not okay. My mental health I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling stressed out. I think you're strong. I think you're courageous. I think you're just making an effort to help yourself. Whereas Arlana, when she wrote the letter to the nation, to the world, she said, check in on your strong friends. So I started her foundation, Arlana Janelle Miller, Check on Your Strong Friends Foundation. Yeah. We want to bring awareness that do not suffer in silence. Your mental health matters. It matters a lot. I think there's nothing, you was asking, was I'm dating, I'm not dating, but I think there's nothing sexier than a young or middle-aged man saying, hey, I'm not okay. Can you go with me to see a counselor? Can we sit down, or you can sit in the lobby while I speak to a counselor? I'm like, hey, I'm there.
Yeah.
it's very important for us to have that uncomfortable conversation with our kids, with our young adults, with each other, with our family members, and talk about health, because anxiety is steady increasing. I see so many educators as functioning with anxiety. I mean, May is like the worst month for teachers. They're like in the fourth quarter with 1 minute left, and they're barely making it.
Wow.
And it's sad because you only get 10 sick days a year as an educator.
It's not enough.
You don't get any sick days for mental health. You have to use the 10 you have. And once those 10 are gone, that's it.
That's it. You got to start tapping into your vacation time. Yeah.
We have people coming to work who are barely making it. So we have to talk about this uncomfortable conversation about mental health. We have to let our kids know and young adults know that you are not crazy. You're not weak. You don't suffer from silence, depression, anxiety, stress. It also leads to separation because people start to separate themselves from people. And Arlana, I think, when she tore her ACL completely, she got behind in classes. She didn't tell us. I found out later she was taking 6 classes. And I was like, I thought you were taking 4 like you took in the fall. 6 classes.
Pushing herself.
Yeah.
Pushing herself.
She said,
you know, I don't mean to cut you off, Jan. There's, as you were talking, I was just thinking to myself, one question I want to ask you was like, you said that you didn't really, that she did a good job of hiding it, right? And check on your strong friends. And I think I told you before, we have a mutual friend, Chad McDavid, and his brother took his life. It was last year, I think. And
it was 4 months before Arlana.
Before
January.
And he told me the exact same thing. He said the exact same thing. He said, man, you got to check, because I know that was his brother was his hero. I mean, I remember when we came to Northwestern in 1988, and his brother would come down and hang out with us on the weekends sometime. I mean, he was several years older than us, but like Chad always talked about his brother. That was like, he was his idol, so I can't even really put myself in the shoes of what that must be like for him, having to go through that. Right. So you said the same thing as he said. When you told me that, I said, man, guess what Jan told me? She said the same thing. Y'all both said it's because these are both strong people. His brother was a strong guy. Your daughter was a strong woman, right? Strong young lady. So, in retrospect, like I'm just imagining, like, I'm sure you probably combed through every text message. You listened to everything. I mean, every video chat, everything to try to see, where did I miss it? Where was she saying something and I just didn't hear it? The other thing is, it makes you wonder, why do people feel like they have to pretend? Why do you feel like you have to pretend that things are okay when they're really not? And I think some people may not know. They think it's gonna pass. Like, I feel this way today, but you know what? Everybody has their down days, but after a few days, after a week, a couple of weeks, and you're still kind of in this down, you probably should say something to someone. And to your point, your friends and surrounding yourself around people who are willing to have the courage to step up and check on you and say, hey, are you good? You kind of a little bit like not how you normally are. What's going on with you? So I think that's really, really great. So as you went back through your and you recollected everything, nothing came up where you said, you know what, this is a sign here. I just missed it. That's scary. That's scary that you didn't, because I mean, moms are really tuned in with their kids. Like, in a lot of, moms are really tuned and they hear things that dads don't normally hear. So the fact that she hit it so well that you didn't hear it, and you're an educator, so you're even trained to hear more than most people, right? And you missed it.
I think she did that on purpose. I think Arlana knew me extra, and I really believe that she wrote that letter because she knew that I would be proactive and try to help someone else, and I believe she knew that I needed closure, so she left a personal letter for me in her car explaining to me that she said, Mom, I was in so much pain. She said, I was just hurting. And I was like,
was she talking about physical pain, Jan, or was she talking about emotional pain? What was she talking about?
Mental pain, emotional pain. I was like, what in the world are you? I'm just like, I just saw this kid Sunday. This happens Wednesday. She was goofy clowning at the cheer banquet. And I was like, she was the first one there, the last one to leave. And I was like, wow. What did I miss? And my pastor told me, and I had to just stop. He said, you can't keep analyzing and keep trying to figure out something internal because you never analyze it. And he said, and it's hard, but it's simple. Forgive God for taking your loved one. there's nothing I can do. I used to go to her grave every day. And one of my friend girls was like, you got to stop. And my pastor, and he said, he's like, if you want to go see that grave, go outside and look at the dirt in your back of your yard. And I was like, what? He was like, it's the same dirt.
Just imagine, yeah.
I was like, I think it was part of my healing. I would go just like every day, and I just wanted to talk to her. I took 3 months off from work. Brad, I can't even tell you what I did this time last year. Besides, I would get up every morning and take a walk for about an hour, hour and a half. I would just walk. A man-made lake in the neighborhood we stay in. I would just walk it. And so what we did, and I'm so grateful for the city of DeSoto, we started our first annual walk for mental health, walking out the stigma. We had it the first weekend in May, the first Saturday in May, and it was in honor of Arlana. And if I know you read a lot too, it was saying that if you're feeling depressed or stressed, take a walk, just a simple, long walk. And then it also says write your thoughts down in a journal. So this month, Arlana's journal will come out, and then next month her book will come out. Brown Girl Resilience is doing her book. And in the book, Arlana will tell people strategies to help them deal with anxiety, depression, and stress. So we're trying to stay proactive and help as many people as we can.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone else to get the phone call that I got. Yeah. And it breaks my heart to see that, as we talked earlier, Black males are 3 times more to commit suicide than females, and the numbers are steady rising.
Yeah.
The problem I have is that we don't have the resources that we need in our Black communities to help our young men and young women. Yeah. And then also, they don't trust people who don't look like them. Less than 2% of licensed therapists in the USA are Black. So that's a problem. And our kids, and we brought them up that way, not to trust. And I'm going to be honest, some of us we have brought our kids up not to trust the other race when it comes to our mental health, when it comes to anything dealing with our bodies. So what I'm striving for is that to just constantly bring awareness and say, we need to get help for our kids and make it easy and accessible. Because I hear the college cheerleaders saying they don't want anyone to see them going to a counselor. They don't want them to be judged for going. So when I did the Dr. Phil show, there was 2 other families, and both of their babies were collegiate athletes, girls. They all were injured, and after they were injured, they committed suicide. And Dr. Phil talked about when you get injured, sometimes the mind plays tricks on you, especially when you're injured and you have nothing to do with it. It just happens. Right. So we started a group, and what we're trying to do is we want athletes in college to do an assessment on their mental health. Not just your strength and your ability to perform, but your mental health. And I think this is
also connected to your ability to perform, honestly, if you're mentally,
Yeah, so that's what we're striving for. We want this to happen with our college athletes, and we want our coaches to be trained too. And we also want the coaches to be trained that the athlete feels comfortable going to them, that they have a relationship with them, and they feel comfortable talking to them. Yeah. And when we do this survey or this process of looking at their mental health, every athlete will take this. It won't be just a certain student. It'll be all the athletes.
Gotcha.
And train the coaches where they can be proactive and talk to our athletes and get them the help that they need. That's because freshman year is your hardest year. I'm going to be honest. It was hard for me. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Freshman year is your hardest year. And there's a transition from being at home to being on your own. Yes. So, we do all the things at the first semester, but the second semester, are we really checking in on our students, our athletes? Then after that first year, we constantly checking out. And then when they're injured, are we really going back and checking on those students who are injured? Yeah. And it's just so important to build that relationship, but also it's really important for us to look at our students' mental health. Right. It's a simple thing to do, but it's complicated because nobody wants to be called crazy. Right. Nobody wants to be looked at, there's something wrong with me. Yeah. So, and then you got to think about how the other athletes are going to feel when they see you going to a counselor. Because I didn't think anything about it. And the cheerleader was like, no, we don't want anybody to see us going to the counselor. So
that's terrible. Terrible.
Gap where you're not being talked about for checking on yourself and others. When we're talking about strong friends, Arlana was the cousin that everybody called and talked to.
Mm-hmm.
Son, John the Third, and my niece Lauren, they would all FaceTime each other and talk.
Yeah.
And she was like, they don't even want anything. They're just FaceTime me. I was like, but they love you. Just talk to them.
Right.
Even friends, they would talk to her. But before this happened, Arlana went to Daytona Beach for the cheer competition. But she did tell me when she came back that her roommates and her suite mates weren't talking to her anymore. And I know that hurt her. And I was like, sometimes you outgrow your friends. And I was like, it's okay. But she didn't understand because she's like, I didn't do anything. I just came back from nationals and they just stopped talking to me. And I was like, well, that's part of life. I was like, sometimes that happened. And then her roommate and suite mate had decided to get an apartment and they didn't discuss it with her. So she was starting to feel left out.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I talked to other students at Southern, they said sometimes they would see Arlana in the student union, she'll be by herself.
Really great, Jan. That's wonderful stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, one of the things I want to give the audience, people who have children or maybe thinking of having children, we talked a little bit about, you can't see everything, right? You got 2 kids you're taking care of and you one in school doing this and the other one's work, whatever it is that the situation is. Sometimes you just can't have your hands on everything, right? And you think your kid's doing great. They're strong. You might even think they're strong,
right?
And you're completely missing something. So, again, this is like some of the most tragic news I could ever imagine that anyone could receive. So if you wouldn't mind, if it's not too emotional for you or too tough to talk about, and I know you've done this on Dr. Phil and other national shows that you've been on and national networks, but I really would love for you to create for the audience what that experience was like for you. Like, where were you when you got this call about what happened? Because you're in Texas, right? And she's in Baton Rouge at Southern Louisiana. So it's like you could just run around the corner. I mean, your daughter's 5 hours away from you, right? So what was the experience like for you? Where were you when you got the call? Who called you? What did they say? And what was the experience like?
When I got the call, I was at home. First of all, one of the cheer moms from DeSoto called me and said her daughter saw something Arlana posted, and she said, check on Arlana. I was like, I just talked to her like a couple hours ago, and I was at the house. I had just got through walking her dog around the park. We have a park here, and it's a lake. And I got home, took a shower. I was getting ready for tomorrow. I think we were getting ready for Teacher Appreciation Week, and I was an admit, so I was heading that, and I was getting ready for that. So I tried to get Arlana on the phone. I couldn't get her. I text, I called, I left messages. Then I started getting other calls from other cheer moms. Then I called one of the Southern cheerleaders, and she said, Mom, we're looking for, I'm going to keep you on the phone the whole time. And she said, but we're looking for her. I tried to call Coach Floyd. He said he was headed to the school they were looking for her. My cousin Christy and her husband Zoe walks through the door, and they was like, what is going on with Arlana? And I was like, I don't know. And I know what they did. They took my keys. I couldn't find my keys. I couldn't find anything. And then 2 of my friends came over, Daedra and Dee. She was the one who called and told me that her baby saw something posted about Arlana. So the cheerleaders like, they call me Mama Janice. We see the cops, they're here. We see the dogs gone out, the boat's gone out. There's a helicopter. They were telling me step by step what was happening the whole time.
So hold on a second. Hold on. So I think I might have missed something. So I want to make sure I didn't miss a detail. So what was posted that this, whoever saw it, what was said or what was posted that had someone say, check on Arlana? Like, what happened? And why did they think all of a sudden everybody starts looking for her? How did anybody discover she was missing? What happened with all that?
Okay, so Arlana posted a post saying that she had people probably thought that was surrounding her that she was really okay, but she wasn't okay. And she posted that check in on your strong friends. And she posted that, Mom, I know you would do anything for me. Mom, you've done everything for me. And she posted that basically that this was it for her, that she had chosen water. And she told me, she said, Mom, I chose water because it was the least painless. That was in her letter to card me. And she basically telling people check in on each other. The person that you think is okay really isn't okay. And everybody saw this post. And
This is a written post, not a video. It was a written post, not a video.
Instagram and Facebook, and I really believe that my baby was actually in the water at the time she posted this, because Captain Kibbe with the Baton Rouge Police Department said if they would have gotten there 5 to 7 minutes earlier, they could have found Arlana. Okay, so Arlana walks in the Mississippi River. When they find Arlana, this is weird because it's like 9 at night, and the Mississippi River is deep, dark.
Right.
Arlana's body floats up. And when it floats up, her car key, the fob, is in her hand, and her phone. I have Arlana's phone. I have the keys to her car. I have all that. Yes, it just floats up.
Wow.
And her grandmother, who's 95, says, God gave you closure. And he said, because he knew you were going to need closure. And then Arlana gave me closure with the letter in the car. I never knew about the letter in the car until finally the cops released the car, and I had somebody pick it up and they brought it to me. They never told me about the letter in the car. When I got the car, I was in an investigator bag, and it was just sitting there. And it was a letter that she left. It was, she was giving me closure. And I truly believe that when she posted that, she was already walking in the water. And it took a week to get her body, because Captain Kibbe was like, I've been on the force 29 years, and we've never heard of someone just walking in the Mississippi River.
Right.
So the autopsy, they did test after test. They looked at all the cameras. He said, because we've never heard of someone just walking in the river. He said, and we don't want to miss anything. And he said, I just don't understand. He said, she was beautiful. He said, but I want to tell you, he said, when I got there, he said, I didn't find her body. One of the other men did. He said, but I prayed on her body. I said, well, thank you. He said, yeah. He said, because I feel like we were just there 5 to 10 minutes. He said, I really believe we could have saved her. He said, you don't understand. He said, I don't understand. He said, I've never seen anything like this. And I told myself, I really believe that she was already in the water, and all she had to do was click on her phone to post it. And she knew it would be too late. And he did. And her body just floated up out of nowhere. And he said he took the key fob, he took the phone, he kept everything. And it was just there.
Wow.
And I was like, this is so strange. He said, yeah, it really is. He said, Miss Miller will never know. Because he knew I would want to ask him so many questions.
Right.
We'll never know. He said, but when we did everything, it was from drowning. He said she drowned. And
oh, man.
That call, the person who called to tell me that they found her body was Mr. Banks. Mr. Banks went to Northwestern with you guys and played football. He's athletic.
Oh, Roman?
Yes. He was on.
Oh, okay.
And told me. And I just screamed. I felt like I had no breath in me, and I just screamed. And that was it for me. And I can't explain that to anyone. It just felt like, it felt like literally, and I said, oh no, like really somebody took my heart out my chest, and I just couldn't breathe. And I just remember myself screaming and hollering. And I was telling my phone, not my baby, not Arlana, cannot be my baby. I was like, it can't be Arlana. He's like, I'm sorry, it is Arlana. And he already had the National Alumni President was headed to my house. They were trying to time it for about the time he'd tell me she would be there, but he had already called me. And
wow, I mean
it's going to falling asleep, and the next couple of days, the next couple of months, I can't even explain to you what I really did. I really can't.
Yeah, you probably in a hole. You were just in a.
I can't even remember when I got to. My pastor really did everything for me. I was just sitting there. He helped me pick out the casket, did everything. It's like I was there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And Tap, of course, he stayed with me. He was like the last one to leave after everybody left. And he's like, I'm coming to see you every other weekend. I was like, no. He's like, yes. Yeah. I was like, no. He's like, yes.
Right. I mean, you said check on your strong friend. So Tap, like, I'm taking that literally. I'm going to check on my strong sister. Right.
Yeah, I would be okay. He was like smothering me. He was just like, I was like, I'm never forget. I was like, every time I turn around, he's there. I was like, I can't breathe. But
just loves you, man. I mean,
I can laugh about it now because at the time, I'm very grateful for my brother. I am. He was really there with me. And I just don't want anyone else to get the call that I had that you lost your baby to suicide.
Yeah.
And she hit it so well, and she knew she did. I think that's what upset us all, the team, the cheerleaders, everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had one of the superintendents called me from the school, and he was telling me, I've talked to so many kids, everybody says nothing but good things about Arlana. And he's like, everybody says she's a sweet person. So I'm grateful that even though she was hurting and in pain, she still had a heart to be nice to people. And I mean, she had a car. She would give the cheerleaders a ride, anybody a ride. She would do their makeup. She would do their hair, because she loved to make wigs.
Right. Okay.
Just a sweet person. And in spite of her suffering with the pain, the internal, she still had a heart to be nice to people. So I'm grateful that she still was nice. She still was battling this battle. And I believe it was when she was by herself that she felt alone and felt these things.
Yeah.
I talked to so many people who went through this, and they said that they would go in a dark place, and they can't explain. It's just like when it's dark, but when they're happy, they're genuinely happy. And
maybe it was, bipolar. It could have been bipolarism. I know that's a lot of.
I believe
of that.
Over losing her scholarship because she was on a full ride. She got behind her class and her leg, and I believe fear overcame her. I really do. I really do.
Yeah. And that, that experience that you talked about, having her friends and not knowing why, like your friends just kind of just desert you. These are people that you've been rolling with, and all of a sudden, and you don't have an explanation. And it sounds like Arlana might have been someone who was like, you know what, that's just the decision that they made. She's not going to go and like fight, say, why y'all not talking to me? She's not going to do that. So it's like, she just kind of deals with it. Right. And it probably would be helpful for anyone who's listening to this if you actually go ask, hey, what happened? What did I do? Like, there's something what can I correct? I love you guys. I value our friendship. I don't want to lose you as friends. But when people just isolate you like that, especially when you're a teenager, 19, 18, 17, that's a big deal. And it has a big impact on how they deal socially. So I know that had something to do with how she felt isolated.
You don't have to do anything at all. Arlana never wanted attention, but it just came natural. People always liked her, knew her. So I think she didn't do anything. I think she just outgrew them because she was cheering. Okay. They weren't cheering. She not only she made the competition squad, so she went to nationals too. So everybody knew who she was. She was always out front dancing and everything, and everybody, even the cheerleaders at DeSoto where she went, was like, Arlana's a freshman and she's out front. Usually don't get that much attention. Modeling for her coach, they got new uniforms. Arlana was on the pictures in the new uniform. It's like she was just doing everything, and I think she just outgrew them. I really do. I think she outgrew them. And that happens. Sometimes you just outgrow your friends. That's life. That's part of life.
True. Very true. It is.
But as a 19-year-old, I think that really hurt her.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think, if you're an adult and you're outgrowing people, that's a little bit different. But when you're a teenager, when your social life is still a big part of who you are, has a little bit of a different, it hits different when it's like that. Right. So Jan, I'm so grateful that you came onto the show to talk about this story. Such a moving story, and everything that you're doing. The Arlana Janelle Miller Check on Your Strong Friends Foundation that you started in her memory. You had the walk this May, and I told you if I had known about it earlier, I would have come and walked. So I want you to certainly invite me next year. Okay. I'd love to come out and support what you're doing to help young people with mental awareness, and helping parents to be more prepared to be able to hear things that their kids might not be saying and be able to see those signs. Now that you can look back in retrospect, even if you don't see signs, just ask anyway, hey, you good? What's going on? Talk to me. Right. And a lot of times I think with teenagers, with my kids, I'll ask, especially when they're like in the early teens, 13, 14, 15, you'll ask all the time, hey, what's going on? What happened at school today? What'd you do at school? What'd your friends do? They don't really give you much of an answer. It's like, you have to be okay with that. It's not personal. It's just something that they're going through. And then, as they get older, the way they deal with that is a little bit different. And sometimes they really open up and they'll tell you everything. Sometimes they'll pretend like they're telling you everything and they're really not. Mm-hmm. So it can be it's a tricky game. Human beings are a little bit tricky, right? We're not as predictable as we would like to think we are. And people do a great job of hiding who they are and what they're really, really dealing with because of some of the reasons that you already mentioned. So I thank you for everything you're doing to really help everyone be in a better position. is there, where can people find out more about the foundation, find out more about anything else that you're doing in support of this particular mission?
Okay, so it's info@ajmfoundation.net. And then her book, The Silent Battle Within, Check In on Your Strong Friends, will be released next month. And then comes out next week. So it's from Brown Girl Resilience. So we're on IG, Arlana Janelle Miller Foundation. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. So
everywhere.
Ready? Yeah, next month we will be releasing her book. I've had some extraordinary people come into my life and really help me with the foundation, with the book, with the journal, with the walk. Again, the city of DeSoto has been awesome. They pay for everything for the walk, and I'm very grateful for people who have really come into my life and the different collegiate athletes whose parents are left after their son or daughter committed suicide. Right. We have really joined together. And I'm grateful for my church family. My pastor, Pastor Epps, always tells me, in this season, help as many people as you can.
There you go.
And my church family, Community Missionary Baptist Church in DeSoto, they have been so supportive. I'm grateful for the unseen prayers, because I know a lot of people were praying for me.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful for everyone. And I tell everyone, check in on your strong friends. Be very, very transparent with your kids and let them know there is nothing that they can't tell you. And don't judge them, but listen.
There it is.
Get yourself and your kids the help that they need, the resources that they need, because mental health does matter, and do not suffer in silence.
For sure.
We have vets suffering in silence. We have so many kids suffering in silence. Let's get rid of the stigma that you are weak, that you are crazy because your mental health is not okay. And it's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not be okay.
It's not totally. It's not to be okay. And just check in on each other and remember that you are a masterpiece and you master your piece.
I love that. I love that. Really, really well said. So again, Jan, I acknowledge you for what you're doing to keep Arlana's legacy alive, and to not let her passing be in vain, and to use it to make an impact in the world. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and all the people that are around you, supporting you in making this vision a reality for people, and providing resources and support for people to be able to take care of their families. So thank you for everything you're doing. And I appreciate you for coming on to the show and sharing this really amazing story. Great to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been over 35 years, but yeah, it's good.
Hey, I mean, tell people it's been that long. You ain't telling my age, man. People think I'm like in my 30s. It's beautiful. Thank you, Jan. I love you, sis. And I'll see you soon, okay? All right. Okay, bye-bye. This is Doris Brown's baby boy. We out.